Sometimes, the hardest day of the year isn't Christmas Day. It's the day before. It's that precise moment when the sun begins to set on the 24th of December, and the world outside transforms into a blur of frantic joy, golden lights, and the hum of reunited families. It's a day where the noise of the world makes your own silence feel deafening. While everyone else is rushing to finish their shopping or laughing over a glass of wine, you might be sitting in a room that feels a little too quiet. You might be looking at a phone that isn't ringing, or staring at a chair that's been empty for far too long. If you have ever felt invisible in a season made for being seen, if you've ever felt like a ghost wandering through a festival of lights, this story is for you. Stay with me. Let's walk through this evening together. The clock read 6:47 p.m. when Clara closed the door to her apartment. The click of the deadbolt echoed through the hallway, a sharp, dry sound that seemed to hang in the air longer than it should have. The apartment was clean, perfectly organized, sterile. It was the kind of home where nothing was out of place because nothing was ever used. There were no coats tossed over chairs, no half-finished puzzles on the coffee table, no crumbs on the counter. It was a space designed for a person who was merely surviving, not living. In the corner of the living room stood a small, artificial Christmas tree. It was modest, barely 3 feet tall. There were no presents tucked beneath its plastic branches. No handmade ornaments from years past. Just a single string of warm white lights that Clara had plugged in out of habit. The lights flickered slowly, pulsing in a rhythmic, tired way, as if the electricity itself was exhausted. Clara dropped her bag on the wooden table. She didn't turn on the overhead lights. She didn't reach for the remote. She simply stood there in the semi-darkness, her feet thrumming with the dull ache of a long shift. She kicked off her heels and let the cold floor press against her soles. She didn't hate Christmas. To hate something requires energy, and Clara was simply out of it. What she hated was the vacuum that Christmas created. Earlier that day at the office, the air had been thick with excitement. Her colleagues were trading stories of 5-hour drives to see grandparents, of secret recipes for eggnog, of the chaotic joy of children waking up at 5 a.m. Clara had performed the dance perfectly. She smiled at the right times. She laughed when they told jokes. She wished everyone a wonderful time. She was a master of the mask. But now, behind the safety of her deadbolt, the mask could finally fall. Here, in the hollow center of her life, a smile wasn't necessary. On the day before Christmas, Clara had never felt more like a shadow. Routine is a silent form of survival. It keeps the mind busy so the heart doesn't have to talk. Clara went through the motions. She filled the kettle. She waited for the water to boil, watching the steam rise and vanish into the dark kitchen. She prepared a simple herbal tea, the same one she drank every night at this exact time. The warmth of the mug against her palms was the only comfort she allowed herself. It was a small heat, a temporary barrier against the winter chill seeping through the glass. She sat on the edge of the sofa, the glow of the tree casting long, distorted shadows on the wall. She made the mistake of picking up her phone. The screen illuminated her face, harsh and bright. Her social media feed was an endless parade of togetherness. Tables overflowing with roasted meats, couples in matching pajamas, blurry photos of friends laughing in crowded bars. Each scroll felt like a tiny, needle-sharp prick to her skin. She saw a notification, 3 memories from today. She tapped it before she could stop herself. There she was, 2 years ago. The photo was out of focus, taken in a kitchen that smelled of cinnamon and wood smoke. She was laughing, her head thrown back, and there was a pair of arms wrapped around her waist. She remembered that moment. She remembered the sound of the rain outside and the feeling of being completely, utterly safe. But lives don't stay the same. Sometimes the change is a slow erosion, like a cliff falling into the sea over decades. Other times, the change is a sudden earthquake. For Clara, the silence had arrived all at once, leaving her in a world where the music had simply stopped playing. She stood up, her tea forgotten and cooling on the table. She walked toward an antique dresser in the hallway. Her hand hesitated over the bottom drawer. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. But tonight, the 24th of December, the gravitational pull of the past was too strong to resist. She opened the drawer. Inside, tucked beneath a winter scarf, was a yellowed Christmas card. The paper was slightly bent at the corners from being held too many times. She didn't need to open it to know what the handwriting looked like: looping, hurried, and full of life. No matter where we are, it will always be home as long as we're together. Clara closed her eyes. She leaned her forehead against the cool wood of the dresser and took a breath. It was a jagged, shallow breath. She felt the familiar pressure behind her eyes, the burning sensation of tears that refused to fall. She wasn't ready to cry yet. If she started crying now, she wasn't sure she would be able to stop before the sun came up. She just wanted to sleep. She wanted to close her eyes and wake up on the 26th, when the world went back to being gray and normal, and the pressure to be happy finally evaporated. The sound was violent in its suddenness. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. She checked the time, 8:12 p.m. Nobody visited Clara. Not on a Tuesday, and certainly not on Christmas Eve. She stood frozen in the hallway, her hand still resting on the drawer of ghosts. She thought perhaps she had imagined it. But then, it came again. A soft, hesitant knock. She approached the door, her footsteps muffled by her socks. She looked through the peephole. Standing in the dimly lit corridor was an elderly man. He wore a heavy wool coat that looked a size too big for him and a knitted cap pulled low over his ears. In his hands, he clutched a small, grease-stained brown paper bag. He looked frail, his shoulders hunched as he squinted at the apartment number. He looked confused, lost. Clara cracked the door open, keeping the security chain engaged. "Yes?" she asked, her voice raspy from hours of disuse. The man jumped slightly, startled. He looked up, his eyes milky but kind. "Oh, I'm so sorry to bother you," he said, his voice a gentle tremor. "I think I've made a terrible mistake. I'm looking for apartment 4B. Clara looked at the brass 4D on her own door. "This is 4D, sir. 4B is 2 floors down." She began to close the door, ready to retreat back into her sanctuary of shadows. But she stopped. She saw the man's hands. They were shaking, not just from age, but from the biting cold of the hallway. He looked down at a crumpled piece of paper in his palm and let out a long, weary sigh. "My daughter," he whispered, almost to himself. "She lived here, well, near here. For 20 years, I brought her my ginger biscuits on Christmas Eve. Every single year." He gestured vaguely to the paper bag. "But she moved this autumn. To the city. She told me the new address, she wrote it down right here. But I suppose my mind isn't as sharp as the frost tonight. I must have gotten off at the wrong stop." A heavy silence settled between them. It wasn't the awkward silence of strangers, it was the heavy, shared silence of two people who understood what it meant to be out of place. Clara looked at the man. He was someone's father, someone's memory, standing in a cold hallway with a bag of biscuits that had nowhere to go. She felt a sudden sharp pang in her chest, a crack in the ice she had built around her heart. "It's freezing out there, sir," Clara said, and she was surprised by the warmth in her own tone. Would you like to come in for a moment? Just to warm up while you call your daughter?" The old man hesitated, then a small, genuine smile broke across his face. "Just for a moment," he replied. "That would be a very great kindness." They sat at the small kitchen table. The kettle whistled again, but this time, Clara made 2 cups of tea. The man introduced himself as Arthur. With trembling fingers, he opened the brown paper bag and placed a few biscuits on a plate. They were simple, homemade, and slightly burnt around the edges. "They never come out quite the same," Arthur chuckled, shaking his head. "My wife, Martha, she was the baker. I just try to mimic her movements. My daughter always tells me they're the best in the world, but I know she's just being a good daughter." Clara took a bite. The ginger was sharp and the sugar was sweet. It tasted like effort. It tasted like a memory. "They're wonderful, Arthur," she said softly. They talked. Not about big things, but about the small, tethering details of life. Arthur talked about his garden, about how Martha used to sing to her roses, and how the house felt too large now that it was just him and the radio. Clara found herself talking, too. She spoke about her job, about the city, and, for the first time in 2 years, she spoke about the person who used to wrap his arms around her in the kitchen. Arthur listened with the patience of a man who knew that some stories need space to breathe. He looked at Clara, really looked at her, and he saw the small tree with the tired lights. He went quiet for a moment, tracing the rim of his teacup. "You know," he said, his voice dropping to a confidential whisper, "after Martha passed, I thought I'd never have a real Christmas again. I thought the holiday was a door that had been locked from the outside." Clara felt a lump form in her throat. "I feel that way every day," she confessed. They looked at each other across the table. In that moment, the age gap disappeared. The difference in their lives vanished. They were just two human beings, sitting in the middle of a vast, cold night, holding on to the same truth, that the world is a very lonely place when you're carrying a heavy heart by yourself. "I realized something tonight, standing at your door," Arthur said, standing up to put on his coat. "I thought I was lost because I couldn't find my daughter's house. But maybe I was just looking for a place where someone would open the door." He reached out and patted Clara's hand. His skin was like parchment, but his touch was incredibly warm. "Thank you, Clara, for opening the door. Not everyone does." Before he left, he insisted she keep the rest of the biscuits. "Ningum deveria passar o Natal completamente sozinho," he said in a whisper. "No one should spend Christmas completely alone." When the door closed this time, the click of the lock didn't sound so final. It sounded like a period at the end of a long, painful sentence, making room for a new one to begin. Clara stood in the hallway for a long time. Then, she did something she hadn't done in years. She sat down on the floor and she cried. She cried for the person she lost, for the loneliness of the past 2 years, and for the sheer, overwhelming beauty of a stranger who brought burnt biscuits to her door. It wasn't a cry of despair. It was a cry of release. Like a river finally breaking through a dam of ice. Later that night, Clara didn't go straight to bed. She walked over to her small, artificial tree. She reached behind it and adjusted the string of lights so they glowed a bit brighter. She went to the kitchen, took one of Arthur's biscuits, and put on a record. Not a loud one, just some soft jazz that filled the corners of the room. She was still alone in the physical sense. The apartment was still small. The person she missed was still gone. But she didn't feel empty. She realized that the miracle of the season isn't found in the grand parties or the expensive gifts. It's found in the possibility of a knock at the door. It's found in the courage to let someone in when you'd rather stay hidden. Sometimes, the miracle isn't about someone staying forever. Sometimes, the miracle is just someone passing through, reminding you that you are still part of the human story. That you are still seen. That your heart, though bruised, is still beating. The day before Christmas is a bridge. It's the dark walk between what was and what could be. And as Clara looked out her window at the city lights, she saw thousands of other windows. Behind each one was a story, some happy, some grieving, some waiting. And she knew, for the first time in a long time, that she wasn't walking that bridge alone. Maybe you are listening to this right now, in a quiet room. Maybe you are Clara. Or maybe you are Arthur, wandering, looking for a place to belong. If this story touched a part of your soul that has been feeling a bit cold lately, I want you to know that you are welcome here. This is a place for the quiet hearts. Please, consider subscribing to the channel. We tell these stories because we believe that no one should have to carry their silence alone. If you've ever had a Clara or Arthur moment, a small gesture from a stranger that changed your night, tell us about it in the comments. Your words might be the exact thing someone else needs to read right now. And if you know someone who is struggling with the silence this year, share this video with them. It's a small way of knocking on their door and saying, "I see you." The clock is ticking toward Christmas. May you find your own possibility tonight. Until next time, keep your light on. You never know who might be looking for it.